And we're back. So I thought I'd swallow my pride today and take the selfie stick out for the first time, but nothing to be ashamed about here. We're talking about eczema and it's good to talk about it. So yeah, let's get into it. I've mentioned before here the obvious advantages of keeping a food diary, but there's actually an even bigger advantage to be had if you write it down rather than just typing it out on your computer. And there's some actual science-based reasons behind this. I've always felt it myself, so I did a bit of research and yeah, it actually works, and it's how your brain is wired, which is why it works. But let's start at the basics. If you don't keep a food diary, you should be doing it. So your brain can only hold a certain amount of information, short-term memory. If yours is anything like mine, you forget what you had for breakfast every single day, even though it's 9:30 in the morning. And your brain can only hold a certain amount. So if you're keeping a note of it, writing it down preferably, it gives your brain more time to reflect on it, see patterns, and actually make more use out of the food that you're writing down and what you're recording. But back to it. If you are keeping a food diary, then you 100% need to be writing it down. We're looking for incremental little gains here, small percentages that add up to tip you over into the healing sort of phase. So first things first, writing it down triggers something called the encoding effect, all right? And that is when you're producing information. So rather than typing it down digitally, you're actually writing it down, and producing that information makes it more referable in your head. So you're writing down the information, you're producing it, and then when you go back to reading it, it means more to you. You have more memory of actually producing it than simply tapping away on your phone. Another thing that happens when you write things down is that you write things in words that you can better understand and words that you phrase yourself, typically. So what you'll find is if you're copying something down or popping it into a Word document, then you're more likely to just write random things and buzzwords and maybe scientific things or ingredients that you don't know or understand, and that's kind of defeating the purpose. What you'll find is when you write things down properly, you'll think about it, and what you write down is something that you'll understand and you'll be able to call back on it a bit better later. Now, linked but not identical to the encoding effect is the levels of processing effect. So you can see how we're starting to build up little tiny incremental gains of just keeping a food diary. And yes, you have the actual record of what you've eaten, but you can do so much more with it, and it can be so much more powerful if you write it with your hands than just tapping away on your phone, for example. Like when you slow down and write it, you appreciate more what you're doing. When you're having a meal, you're sitting down and you're writing it out by hand rather than just tapping away on your phone. It can be done in an instant, you know? We all text pretty much as fast as we can. That's kind of the whole point of it. When you're writing it down, you do slow down. And I find myself, you know, if I'm having a piece of chocolate or something, I have to get my book out, write it down. Or if I'm having, you know, an extra portion of something and I'm, you know, don't really need it, I get it out, write it down. And it just sort of puts that mental check on you and can help you appreciate more what you're doing. So you're keeping a record, yes, but the actual act of keeping a record can impact on what you're actually eating as well and how you reflect on that. When I was doing my research for this and trying to figure out why I found it so helpful to write down my food diary rather than typing it out, was sensory encoding and multi-channel memory. And basically why this is great is it's just another way that your brain works in the physical world, right? We're not built to live on screens and have everything digitally. And what this does is it just ties in the different parts of your brain that are active when you're writing. So you have your motor skills that are doing the actual movements. You got sensory for feeling the page and your pen on the page, and there's different parts of your brain that are activated. And from writing these down and using all the different sections of your brain, what this means is that you produce a more distinct memory trace, something more distinct than just tapping away. But we all know this, right? So you learn by rote when you're younger, at least I did anyway. There's so many maths and random physics equations that are so long, and I used to sit down and just write them out for 10-15 minutes, and that's it, they're banked in the memory now. And why this all really helps in a food diary is because you are unconsciously freeing up space for your brain to form these links with your foods that you're eating. So, your brain's trying to process all these things, and as you're trying to battle through eczema and figure out what's triggering you, what's not, is it just dust or is it my diet? Writing things down gives you that unconscious brain space to be able to think about it internally without doing it consciously, right? So why this is great for eczema is because you're creating more brain space, and your brain is working on things in the background, things that you can retrieve on later on the day when you're thinking about it and trying to piece together, what foods are triggering you and what's not. There's so much information that your brain takes in a day that just goes in one ear out the other, you dump a load of information over sleep and you record the information that you want to recall overnight, and that forms a memory. And when you're tracking eczema, there are so many things that you want to be able to keep track of. So, the actual state of your skin, how itchy it is it red, is it inflamed, is it oozing, all these different things, call it what you want, is it flaky? There are so many things that you're trying to track and pinpoint down. And keeping a food diary just really helps take that one portion off your plate and helps you be able to track it from that perspective. All right, so to wrap it up before I get blown away, the encoding effect, the levels of processing, and the sensory motor encoding processing, those are the reasons that I found, just by researching for this video, why I found writing a food diary has been so powerful and beneficial for me. I did used to keep them digitally, and I've definitely noticed that writing them out has really helped me a lot. And with eczema, you're looking for any sort of incremental gain, anything that can give you an edge and help you on your healing journey. So I'd highly recommend it, and it's something I've always done. So yeah, I'm blowing around here. I can't even keep my phone still, so we'll end it there. All right, catch you in the next one.